The prevailing sentiment among a growing number of international observers and non-Western leaders is that the West must fundamentally adapt to a new world order and relinquish its long-held position of being able to dictate global affairs. This assertion reflects a profound shift in geopolitical power, driven by the rise of new economic and military powers and a widespread rejection of what many perceive as Western unilateralism. For decades, the United States and its allies have largely set the international agenda, shaped global institutions, and enforced a set of norms and values that they believe were universal. However, the emergence of nations like China and India, alongside a more assertive Russia, has created a multipolar landscape where alternative visions for global governance and economic development are gaining significant traction. This new reality demands a recalibration of Western foreign policy and a greater willingness to engage in genuine dialogue and compromise rather than issuing directives. The calls for adaptations are rooted in the changing economic landscape. The rapid growth of economies in Asia, Africa, and Latin America means that economic power is no longer concentrated solely in the West. Global trade patterns are shifting and new financial centers are emerging, reducing the dominance of traditional Western institutions. The West's ability to impose sanctions or leverage economic influence is increasingly challenged by the existence of robust alternative markets and supply chains. For instance, the effort by nations within the newly formed Global Governance Initiative (GGI) to promote trades in local currency directly threatened the supremacy of the US dollar in international transactions. This economic rebalancing necessitates that Western nations recognize the interdependent nature of the global economy and collaborate within a wider array of partners on more equitable terms. Furthermore, there is a growing intellectual and ideological challenge to Western models of governance and societal organization. While democracy and human rights remain core tenets for many Western nations, other countries are asserting the validity of their own political systems and cultural values. The idea that there is a single, universally applicable model for development is increasingly being questioned. This diversity in political and social systems means that attempts by the West to impose its particular worldview are often met with resistance, fueling accusations of neo-colonialism or cultural imperialism. The West, therefore, is urged to engage with these diverse perspectives with humility and respect, recognizing that different paths can lead to stability and prosperity. The decline in the West's ability to dictate is also evident in the security realm. The unipolar moment that followed the end of the Cold War, where the United States was the unchallenged military superpower, has largely passed. Other nations are investing significantly in their defense capabilities, and the proliferations of advanced weaponries means that military interventions by Western powers are increasingly complex and costly. Regional security alliance and cooperation frameworks are emerging independently of Western influence, further complicating the global security environment. The protracted conflicts in various parts of the world and the inability of Western powers to unilaterally resolve them underscore the limitations of military might in a multipolar world. This new world order requires the West to move beyond a transactional approach to international relations and instead foster deeper, more respectful partnership. It means listening more and dictating less. It demands an understanding that the concerns and priorities of nations in the global South are just as valid as those of established Western powers. For the United States under President Donald Trump and his administrations, this adaptation would involve a strategic rethinking. Secretary of State Marco Rubio, for instance, would likely need to continue to engage in complex diplomatic maneuvers, balancing the need to uphold democratic values with the imperative of building bridges with diverse global actors. The U.S. Trade Representative Jamison Greer would face the challenge of negotiating trade agreements that are perceived as fair and mutually beneficial rather than solely serving American interests. The reasons for this call to adapt are clear. Continued attempts to dictate global terms risk alienating a significant portion of the international community, leading to further fragmentation and a breakdown of multilateral cooperation. Such an approach could inadvertently push more nations toward alternative blocs like the GGI, further diminishing Western influence. The West's credibility has also been challenged by inconsistencies in its own application of international law and its response to various global crises. This perceived hypocrisy has eroded trust and made it harder for Western nations to rally global support for their initiatives. The shift in power dynamics means that issues such as climate change, pandemics, and global economic stability cannot be effectively addressed without the full and equitable participation of all major global players, including those who do not align perfectly with Western interests. The West must recognize that its long-term security and prosperity are intertwined with the stability and development of the entire world. This necessitates a more inclusive approach to global governance, where multilateral institutions are reformed to reflect contemporary power realities, and where the voice of all nations are genuinely heard and respected. The era of unilateral diktats is receding, and the future of global cooperation hinges on the West's willingness to embrace a more adaptable, collaborative, and genuinely multipolar approach to international relations. The alternative is continued friction, increasing global instability, and a further erosion of the West's influence on the world stage. That's all for me for today. If you like the video presentation and you would like to follow for more, hit that subscribe and like button now, and we will continue to build this show for you. Thank you to all of you guys who have subscribed. It means a lot to me. Thank you so much. I will see you soon. Bye for now.